Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video, doing JMA Friday today. As always on a Friday, we're having a detailed look at the weather for the next month. This will take us into the second half of May. So, we're going well on in towards the end of the spring, actually. So, we're going to around the 19th of May with this update. Can have a look at the Japanese and CFS V2 models and see what they're showing. Been quite an interesting spring so far. Very warm start through March. Had a really warm March, lasting into the early part of April, but things do feel significantly cooler now, and we'll see where things are predicted to go in terms of the Japanese and CFS V2 models as we're getting through into the final month of the spring in a second. Before we go on with that, I had another picture sent through. This one came from Barry in Sweden. This is something called Kalmar, close to the southeastern coast of Sweden. Snowy day on Monday, I think this was, 17th. So quite deep snow there across Sweden in Kalmar on Monday. Here's another pic showing, again, quite a depth of snow, really, for so late in the year. So, fairly decent covering of snow going on there. We know that much of Europe is already quite cold. It's going to be staying cold through the coming week. Thanks to Barry sending that through, and if you've got any weather pics, doesn't have to be snow related, you can email them to me at gazoffice@gmail.com. And we're always happy to feature those pictures in the video, so thanks to Barry from Sweden for sending that picture through, or those pictures through. Right, we'll start off with the Japanese models for next month then, and then we'll have a look at the CFS V2, beginning with the 500 height anomalies broken down into weekly periods from the pole down. So we've got the North Pole is just there, then the mid-latitudes, of course, underneath it, the British Isles, which isn't always that easy to make out on these charts, but the British Isles is just there. So with these charts, blue extrapolates to low pressure, and the bright colours, oranges, yellows, reds, they extrapolate to high pressure. The coming week takes us from today, the 21st of April, through to the 28th. We find that we've got a trough of below average heights to our east and northeast, with a ridge of above average heights out to our west. We're doing something a bit like this with the jet stream and the flow, so it looks like a fairly cool week coming up, likely to be bringing the air down from the north or the northwest. So not just cool, but actually could be quite cold in the week ahead. Have a look at week 2. This one takes us from the 28th of April through into the 5th of May, and again we find that we've got below average heights to our west and northwest, with this one above average heights are centred over to the east and through the central part of the Atlantic. So we do something like that with the jet stream. It's more westerly, that one, so although probably still quite unsettled to the north and west, and probably quite cool still, because the air is coming from quite a long way north in the Atlantic. It's coming from that sort of direction. It is Atlantic based there, so it won't be as cold as week 1. Just chilly, really, and probably a bit of a recovery. Temperatures taking place there at the end of April and the start of May. And then we move through to weeks 3 and 4, which takes us from the 5th through to the 19th of May. And this one is a bit different again. We've got above average heights centering through the northern Atlantic to south of Greenland, below average heights through the middle part of the Atlantic, probably a little bit of below average heights over Central Europe as well. Looks like the jet stream's on a bit of a southerly track there, so I'm not sure that's terribly good, really, as we're going into May. We could well be bringing in the air from an east-northeasterly direction, and with this trough underneath it, sort of undercutting the ridge, which is just there, remember, that could be quite unsettled as well. So I'm not sure the JMA is painting a terribly good picture for May. Could actually be turning out to be quite a cool, unsettled type month, but perhaps particularly so for the south, actually, in that sort of pattern. Southern parts might be a bit wetter than the north. let's have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies from the JMA for the next month. So we come back to week 1, which is the 21st to 28th of April. We find that pretty sure just here in the top right hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. Of course, this is the tropical mid-latitude view, so we've got the tropics just there, and then the mid-latitudes, the northern hemisphere, and mid-latitudes of the southern hemisphere are just there, so everybody knows where everyone is. So we're in the top right hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. The precipitation anomaly for the next week comes out a little bit wetter than average for Scotland, otherwise it's drier than average. The temperature anomaly, look at this, quite a significantly colder than average week coming up, so dry but cold, or certainly cool, possibly cold at times, is how the JMA model is seeing things for the week ahead. Week 2 is looking like this. Again, that's the 28th of April to the 5th of May. We've got the below average heights out to our northwest. Otherwise, we are near normal with the precipitation, with the heights, I should say. Precipitation actually is coming out wetter than average for that end of April into the start of May period. It looked a more Atlantic-driven type situation than we have in week 1, which is more sort of Arctic origin air. The temperature anomaly for that week from the 28th of April to the 5th of May is much closer to average. So there's a recovery in temperatures taking place into the end of April and the start of May, but it is more unsettled. It's more Atlantic driven type pattern, which is why the temperatures are picking up a bit. But the downside of that is that we do have more rainfall for the start of May. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, which I was a bit concerned about, really. This is the 5th through to the 19th of May. We've got the above average heights just there going towards Greenland, below average heights underneath it, and I thought probably we might be setting up a bit of a southerly tracking jet stream with that one. So it still is looking wetter than average. It looks like we could be in for quite an unsettled May here. We've had a very dry period, which really started back last summer. Actually, I think it's around July and August that we switched into a dry pattern. That's gone on for several months now. But JMA is right. We could be about to break the dry spell in May and have a much more unsettled month with quite a bit of rainfall. Now, temperatures, I thought the temperatures would probably be going a bit colder because it looked like the jet stream should be on a southerly track. Actually, the jet stream, according to the model, the temperature, I should say, according to the model, is holding up okay. We're still coming out around average, maybe even hinting at being a bit above average. So, it looks like we're in for quite an unsettled May, but temperatures look like they're holding up. Bit dubious about that, really, because the 500 millibar height anomaly, to me, and I'll show you it again, that implies that the jet stream is going to be going to the south of us through that sort of area with this blocking feature just here, which should, in theory, be turning winds into the east and the northeast, and then the jet stream and the trough is providing precipitation. So to me, that looks like it should be quite a cool, wet signal for May. The model is suggesting temperatures are holding up okay. We'll have to wait and see about that, I think. CFSV2 next. So again, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period taking us from the 21st through 27th of April. We've got that area of below average heights across Scandinavia, above average heights through the Atlantic, and the jet stream is going something rather like that. So we bring quite cool air down from the north and the northwest, possibly cold at times. Should be a reasonable amount of dry weather, but it's not completely dry because we are close to quite a big trough that is sitting to our east. But essentially, the main thing is that temperatures are looking pretty cold there. We go through to week 2, which is the 28th of April through to the 4th of May. Quite a big change. Below average heights are setting up to our south. Quite a big trough, and to the west as well. So quite what the jet stream is doing about it. It's rather difficult to ascertain, but probably doing something a bit like that. It looks like we're on the cold side of the jet anyway, and we're probably still bringing the air in from an east-northeasterly direction. So that looks unsettled and quite cool, I would have thought, for the very end of April into the start of May. And then we get changes again, and this is disagreeing with the JMA as we're going into May. So this is the 5th through to the 11th of May, where we find we've got above average heights over Scandinavia, with this one quite a big ridge over Scandinavia, below average heights in the Atlantic. That's blocking off the Atlantic and could be bringing up some quite warm air there from the southeast, actually. Then we go through to week 4, and it looks very similar. This is the 12th through to the 18th of May, where again, ridge of high pressure over Scandinavia, below average heights, so that's low pressure in the Atlantic, doing something a bit like that with a jet stream. And again, that could well be bringing in some quite warm air from the east or from the southeast. So it's really this ridge where we've got the difference between the two models. The JMA wants to centre that somewhere around here, whereas the CFS is centering it over Scandinavia. Quite an important difference, because if the JMA is right and we centre that ridge there, then we're going to be pulling the air down from the north-northeast. If the CFS is right, though, and we have it centred over Scandinavia, we'll be bringing the air in from the east or the southeast, which could actually be really quite warm. So temperature anomalies for the next week with CFSV2 come out significantly colder than average. Again, this 21st, 27th of April looks really quite cold indeed. Most parts of Europe also looking cold in the week ahead. Week 2 temperature anomalies are also coming out cold, so it looks like we're going to have a really chilly end to April, and that could last into the start of May as well. But then week 3, when that ridge builds over Scandinavia, we get quite a significant change. And look at this, we're going warmer than average for the week from the 5th through to the 11th of May. And then that continues to week 4 as well, the 12th to the 18th of May, drawing up the air from the southeast. And again, temperature anomalies are significantly warmer than average for the UK, most parts of Europe as well. The precipitation anomaly the week ahead is not just looking quite cold, it's also looking pretty dry from the 21st to 27th of April. And then week 2, this one looks closer to average with precipitation, so it implies it turns a bit more unsettled there, but still cool to cold from the 28th of April to the 4th of May. Then week 3, we start to lose the signal, as always, because it's much weaker in week 3. So it's showing average precipitation, perhaps a little bit more towards the unsettled side. And then week 4 also is showing average precipitation. But again, we might just be hinting at going onto the slightly more unsettled side of things. So a real mixed bag from JMA Friday today. It looks like the rest of April is fairly straightforward. And it looks like it'll be quite cold, really quite a cool end to April. May really is up for grabs. If the JMA is right, I think we're looking at quite a cool and wet spell through May. If the CFS is right, there could be some unsettled conditions at times, but the main thing with the CFS is that it would be much warmer, and, well, you wouldn't be ruling out the chance of some thundery weather there on the CFS, with the air being drawn up from the southeast and instability to our west and southwest. The two will probably combine and possibly produce some very warm and possibly thundery conditions into May. So May is up the grabs. The rest of April looking quite cool. And that's how it's looking with JMA Friday this week. These charts are always subject to change, highly experimental model, so it could all look very different next week. Tomorrow we're doing week ahead forecast, of course, because it's Saturday. And we've also got the CFS 6 months look ahead just for fun. That takes us through the next 6 months to see what CFS is showing. So come back for all of that tomorrow. Later on today, we'll have our latest update for the May Day Bank Holiday weekend. That'll be around 7 o'clock this evening. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.